Notice another whiteboard sesh. This is fun. Gonna get back to a few more commenters. So we got John. Thanks, bro. Gonna be responding to you. Got Elior. Thanks, man. And then this homie. I don't know how to say your name, but thank you. Just a reminder before we hop into that, because everyone's still having just a foundational misunderstanding with what's going on here. I'm talking about live reality, structure, not your belief. Literally don't care about your interpretation or opinion at all. All I care about is how you're going to relate between this binary. If you've never even heard of this has never been proposed in the philosophical tradition in 2,500 years. It is what it is. That's my claim. Either psychotic or true, forcing you into a binary. How will you relate to that binary? Same way as we're walking down the street and I yell stop, you can either stop or not, but you must recognize that. You're already in relation to me yelling stop at you. All you guys think that only this exists. It's your mind, separate from the world. And then we build some interpretation, some bridge to get across. All of science, philosophy, religion, everything is propositional. Propositions are sets of assumptions. That's why they're interpretations. Assumptions could be true or false on the ground, right here. The structure itself is assumed. Faith itself, that's what it is. Of course, your interpretive framework is not something you invented, something given to you. You learned about it, you understood it, you want to say? Fine. But if this is the way you approach the world, then when someone speaks to you from a different one, there's about 27 million of these, you can literally only recognize it or interpret it through whatever you got going on. So structurally, you're literally projecting this image you take to be yourself onto others, breaking relation. This is the true order, and it's existed forever, the entire time. It's never changed. The only way you get one of these is by this order. That means this order is non-assumptive, not interpretive. This isn't to prove it, it's to reveal it. Because your idea of proof is based on an assumption, which could be true or false. But this is not assumptive, it just is. When you have something that's true or false based on a ground assumption that this is separate, and that's just faith. Whether you're an atheist, rationalist, it's faith itself, dressed up in different language, battling faith itself. When you have nothing but this, it just comes down to how good is your language against other ones. All it comes down to. But since it's, of course, always faith itself, and it's a sliding scale of trust, your proof mechanism. All it is. You don't trust history, that's an impersonal category. We trust that people had eyewitness accounts of things that happened, wrote them down, communicated them, and then take some other thing that we're trusting, logic, as if it's ours, separate from the world, create some rubric to see what's true and what's not. Sliding scale of trust. No matter what, you must enact faith, because when you hear about this, you're stuck in the epistemic trap, which means you'd have to take faith to take this up. But it's non assumptive, not interpretation. That means it's 100% certain, reducing all this to zero making this a tautology. If this is actually the order, then it is before interpretation, and it is non-assumptive. If this is true, right? This method right here shows that this would be the structure, the ground of every single belief, interpretation, thought you could actually have, meaning your expression is constrained to never be able to deny this without contradicting yourself, meaning all the preconceptual conditions I'll lay out, which have never been said before, if denied, perform them at the exact same time, and you're not separate from this. I'm relating to you directly. All the commenters establish a third person neutral perspective as if they're separate and observing this, because they're assuming this off the rip. But to even make that assumption, they're already touching, which I'll get into. Might seem confusing, but I'm just laying it out. And then the thought experiments here, I think, will make it pretty clear. But if you think I'm wrong, you can't just pick this up and throw it in here, because that becomes the proof. That literally proves you're not relating to what I'm saying. You're doing this and this based on these, because you're assuming this, which creates this, which can only be this. But all of this is a parasite. It only comes after. And if you're completely ignorant to this, then you cut out all this. Just pretend it doesn't exist, which is why you have this split, which is why you have to do this. Make sense? Cool, we're done. All right. So I'll go into these in more detail after the thought experiments, but just to show right off the rip. Category error. You're saying contact needs to be understood by the mind, presupposing that it's first, no matter what you say after. Right there. But they're already touching. And what I'm doing, is I'm showing this right here is this circle. This comes after this. They're already touching. That's why I drew the horizontal. You're just assuming this distinction and nothing else, ignoring the circle, trapping you in this circle. Endless self-reference. Elior, right here. Non-dual insight, you said. I'm not proposing a non-dual insight. You just assume that I am and assert it. Your metaphysics, as if I'm a third person neutral perspective doing this. You're doing the same thing. They're already touching. You think just this is happening. I'm showing this. And this homie, we got here. I don't even know who this is. I'll have to look that up. Doo, doo, doo. I agree. Here's your issue. The width cannot be secondary to mind. You just assert that I'm using the mind to establish with epistemology. You're just asserting that I'm saying this. Like I'm making the distinction, but I'm showing they're already touching, which then reveals the ontological conditions. I think you'll get this too. do some thought experiments. So, you guys want to relate to me and not just become part of the proof. You have to understand I'm pointing out structure, which comes prior to belief, prior to all of this. You're probably wondering, how can I do that without this? I'll show you. So you got to drop to the floor and tell me why this is wrong. But I promise you, every time you do, your denial of it will enact these. Every time. The last time I did this whiteboard, I think the alarm clock is definitely the best one so far. I challenge you, if I make any assumptions, anything that's epistemology, interpretation, propositions, call me out, let me know. But don't just assert something I'm not saying. That just breaks relation and proves the whole thing. I'm using an alarm clock to show what actually unfolds every second of your existence. You wake up from an alarm clock. No one has even examined this. How does this shit work, yo? You're not awake. You're sleeping. The alarm clock rings off, then you're awake. Phase change. What's actually happening? What even is an alarm clock? What does it do? It produces raw sounds. They are purposed to generate wakefulness. Of course, it's pre-programmed ahead of time to address you from the outside, these sounds, at a specific time in order to generate that phase change. Time, change, distinction, address, contact, relation. What kind of sounds is this alarm clock? There's a distinguishing quality to it from other sounds. At some point along the way, we recognized, identified the most effective sounds to generate that phase change. From wakefulness to sleep. We know that frequency, vibration, physics, this is motion, not assumed. So again, how does this experience begin? Is there a separation? We know the alarm clock's outside of our body, what we would classify as the world reality. It addresses you at that time frame while you're asleep. So the first thing that happens prior to interpretation is the sounds ring off. Just put yourself in this situation. Imagine you're hovering over your sleeping body watching this. You're not interpreting anything. The sounds ring off. They're raw, have that distinguishing quality from other sounds. They hit your body. The sounds smack your eardrums first. That's while you sleep, not interpreting anything. It rattles your nervous system. Then your nervous system identifies, recognizes, knows, not you interpreting, what that sound means, the meaning of it. The only way it can make that phase change from sleep to wake is if it's recognizing the distinguishing quality between this and other sounds, not you, your nervous system. This specific sound is wake this body up. That's contact by relation, baby. No one invented this. It's happening 24/7 first, prior to mind, prior to interpretation. There's always this distinction at address. In this case, it's you versus the alarm clock. That means it's one field of experience, a distinction within unity. You can picture like you wake up at a football field. I'm at one goalpost, you're at another. You're hearing these raw sounds. They hit your eardrum. You're not interpreting. Your body's recognizing what these shapes mean, these reverberations, because it's already recognized it a trillion times. With the alarm clock, change in time is a preconceptual condition prior to interpretation, again, because you're forced into that waking state from sleep. That's a phase change. That's what we call that thing. Of course, this is only possible within the passing of time. You were asleep, now you're not. Our reality just shows this endlessly. None of it's assumed. So, what's this whole mind interpretation world thing? Where does that come in? After. Alarm clock outside your body, reality. So, it's not purely in matter, it's relating to you, it's hitting you, your body recognizes it, sends it up. But you're ignorant to this because this means it's all being given. This means your free will choice is how you relate to these. Which one do you choose to recognize as your reality? When you're ignorant to it, you have no choice but just to think this. Which comes after? Making it a parasite, canceling out all of this. This separation forms. You think there's a gap, you do this. More, more, more. Testing, testing, testing. It's never enough. I used to be super into stoicism, all that self-discipline, have courage, my own mind, interpreting that's the best way to handle the world. I'm the one narrating it the whole time. It's never enough. You can never be sure because that's the ground. No matter how self-disciplined you think you are, you always have to narrate it because that's the ground. Always like, did I do enough? Not sure. I think I did enough. This is freedom. These are the preconceptual conditions. Never before been said. A structural floor prior to belief, prior to theory. It's how all beliefs come about. This is just a thought experiment for every moment of your existence. You arrive after, always late. The meaning isn't something you generate. It's only after all that occurs where you wake up and think you're your mind, this interpretation, I'm awake, now what? Happens after. There are logical implications to this. Like I said, it's not purely in the world. And it's not in your mind because that comes after you already have the meaning. Just drops in your lap. Everyone thinks they're playing catch with themselves, throwing the baseball up and down. Well, what's happening is you're playing catch with someone else. There's always that distinction with an object or another person. And the ball just lands in your mitt. And if you recognize contact, you suddenly realize you're throwing it back and you're not even sure how, but it's working out. This alarm clock, this contact and relation, this idea of you waking up, they always co-arise together. They're not separate. There's literally never been a subject, unless it's observing an object, at the exact same time. There's never been an object unless it's being observed by a subject at the exact same time. That solves the whole Schrodinger's cat thing. Just ended that real quick. Pretty cool. None of this is assumed. Experience only starts when you wake up on that football field where opposite ends the goalpost and the relational field is already there. Like, if it's an actual football game, you don't arrive at that field unless there's already that meaning pre-baked in, whether it's to win, have fun, whatever it is. And so people think I might be making a nervous system theory or a phenomenological, is that how you say it? Theory? But all those are theories. I'm showing the circle which grounds them all. And I'm using the nervous system just to show that biology doesn't lie about the true ontological order. Because you never experience the world directly. But the nervous system tells you you're being contacted by it. So this whole idea of having life, having experience, this knowingness that I am awake in this specific experience arrives on its own from contact and relation. The recognition happens within you. That means you don't experience the world directly. The mirror flips. That co-arising happens all at once, not different moments. Outside to inside, inside to outside. Paradox. We saw this co-arising distinction within unity as a contradiction and try to resolve it by separating them and building a bridge across. That is the contradiction. It was just a paradox. Two states being held together in irreducible tension, which should cancel each other out, but don't. Like the word passive aggressive. It doesn't mean passive, it doesn't mean aggressive. They're two embodied states. The words always arrive after, the meaning arrives after. So the word passive is just describing a certain state of being, just covering up that living sensation. Same with the word aggressive. They mean completely different things, but specifically, they cancel each other out. How can you have them both at the same time? Well, we do. It means a third meaning. Passive aggressive has a different intelligibility than either passive or aggressive. And that intelligibility only comes about because they're being held together in irreducible tension. The entire Western thought, all of philosophy, all these interpretive frameworks look at something like passive aggressive, these as an example, and just think, that can't be right. Let's try to solve it. That is the contradiction. Creates this third person neutral perspective that doesn't exist because they always co-arise. There was never a separation. So, John, when you think of interpretation, understanding, it's not assumed that this is a cognitive error, just being ignorant to the contact relation order. The entire meaning of that alarm clock is given to you by contact and relation. You only arrive after to narrate over it. Is anything I said assumed? Tell me why. You can't. That's why you have to assume and assert over me to avoid it. Because since this is the ground, everything you can possibly express is constrained by that order. So if you try to sidestep it, deny it, it breaks relation. And that breaking of relation literally performs all those preconceptual conditions. So you can walk away and it's true, or deny it and it's true. That's why it's 100% certain, a complete tautology. Everything you consider to be an interpretation is literally just a form of recognition being given to you. There's never been a human experience that was not contained right now, as you're hearing this, by these things. These aren't interpretations, and that's all of your experience. These are modes of recognition due to contact and relation. Our alarm clock example would be a sound. That meaning arrives on its own, you're still sleeping. After that, you might express I'm awake. That's literally just relational ontology being expressed. Can't be anything else. The other side of the mirror. The reason for that is so you can have life. It's only possible because of these distinguishing marks. That's what makes you feel alive. And then once you have time and change, that becomes expression. So all these categories, just like the alarm clock, it's happening 24/7, reality demanding recognition through you. The distinguishing marks that make you feel alive, that recognition that's given to you, is happening with, between mind and matter. But here's the problem. How could we know this is happening? What I'm saying now. We would actually have to be ignorant to it, born into that state. We'd have to assume the complete opposite is true in order to know it's not. Trippy. But you can see it with the word light, or any word. Let's just ask, what does light mean? Words arrive after, meaning arrives after, non-assumed. Therefore, light is just a symbolic covering of a living sensation. You're not separate from these things. The only time you ever experience light is when it's hitting you, or when someone's talking about it, like I'm talking about it now with this symbolic covering, which relates back to the living sensation. When I say light, you're actually microprocessing what that thing feels like based on the mark of light which emitted to recognize what that thing is. So the word light is literally just containing what that thing feels like, what it felt like, what it looked like, what it sounded like, its texture. That means words do not require definitions. That comes thousands of years later. And this is obvious because the total coherence of light is based on dark existing. Dark is its exact inversion. We're talking about living sensation. It's the complete absence of the quality of light. So try to imagine a world without any darkness. It's always light. Does light even have any meaning? How could it? Seriously, its entire meaning is based on the opposite occurring within time and change. I would love someone to tell me how this is wrong. And it's the exact same way with your entire existence. Your life, this experience is only possible, have meaning, unless we're born into the opposite ontological order. Because, where are we at? If all you know is this, so everyone listening to this doesn't even know about this, only this. But if the opposite was true, you never knew about this and only this, then everything's being given to you, but who's you? If everything's being given, there's no you to know you're being given it. I'm not saying this is wrong and bad. I use the word parasite because that's just a word we have for what it's actually doing. You're just completely ignorant to this. We're born into it. And so we assume we exist in this order. The only purpose of that is to know you don't. That's how you have life. Love, love, fear, life, death, true, false. In this, you have right, wrong, immoral, moral. All of those are based on an assumption that you're separate and need to get somewhere. But this is all that's happening. It's freedom. Where we at? Where we at? Like I said, this is the ignorant state. What I've just structurally shown is this is the case. Go back to the alarm clock real quick. You might wake up and think all these things. And it happens so quickly because you're ignorant to contact relation that you literally forget in real time that this is happening. Ignorant to it. Therefore, your entire experience when you listen to this, all my commenters, you're experiencing these words, these sounds that I'm saying, the sight of all of this, as if you're arriving first. Like you're applying meaning from your mind and then throwing this into this. As soon as you do this, you erase this no matter what you say. You separate it, move the world to the back. Once you're doing that, all you're doing is trusting some mind that is arriving first. Like I said, even that cannot be you because it's being given these things, not recognized for what they are. So even this self-referencing self, this I am I loop, is being given to you. And what's structurally shown is that's assumptive. You can't ever be true that that's happening. But of course, everyone's positive that the mind arrives first and that is separate from the world, which is why what I'm saying has never been said. So what I get a lot are people saying this sounds similar to interpretive frameworks that do try to erase the detached observer, like a non-dual perspective we see with Elior. But dual versus non-dual is still assuming that split. Every assumption of the split, every debate, every theory, literally ever, is a self-canceling living contradiction because it's inverting that ground, fracturing you constantly, numbing yourself to the despair. because you don't think there's another way, but there's always has been. Why is this happening? Or, I mean, why is this actually a living contradiction? Because every time you assume the mind is separate from the world, you establish that third person observation perspective, breaking relation to another person, seeing them as an object. That's why our world's so fucked up. But you can only make that assumption if they're already touching, co-arising. So that recognition that's being given to you, the meaning of the alarm clock waking you up, that's not yours. You don't know that's what's happening. Life must go on. Recognition recognizes itself as the one giving and receiving at the same time. It's forced to rewrite what's actually happening and reverses what occurred. That means you have a split between your body and mind. That contact relation order literally never changes. You can go back to the first point, these proto humans. Of course, we know anthropology doesn't lie that the I or me wasn't around yet, not the human being in the way we think of today. You can think of a baby as well. There's no interpretation yet, and they're still pointing at things. These cavemen were grunting. Since there is no interpretation yet, ability to do that, and they're pointing, that's just pure relational ontology. It's contact first. If they're pointing at something, it means that they're distinguishing, but there is no possessive I, no reflexive I that's doing that, describing it. It's reality itself, demanding its own recognition through our localized nervous systems. We all have the same nervous systems, and we're being impacted by reality as it changes in time 24/7. You can think of a cat hissing to take it out of the human category. You're contacted by a cat hissing. That's a sound demanding recognition. Just like an alarm clock, you don't interpret your way into what that means. You're retrieved into it. That's your distinction at address, you and the cat arriving in between. The cat has its own distinction at address. It's being impacted by the meaning of that word, which we know because we're being given it, is it's being confronted by something that it wants to scare away or it's being threatened. So what happened with the cat to even generate that noise is too much energy in its nervous system, can't absorb the impact, emits a mark. That mark becomes a mode of recognition for what that cat needs to do, but it's being hit by reality. It obviously isn't interpreting things like a human being. And it's always something impacting it first, which causes it to hiss, this cat. And then it knows what to do based on that recognition from emitting the mark. So all our words, light, hot, cold, they arrive after repeated impacts. Words, their entire meaning, are little containers. They're just pointing at itself of that living sensation of the first time you've seen it through all the trillions of times you might have seen it. Like the word at. There was a first time you saw that. So going back to proto-humans, the first grunt, the first point, then getting to sounds, whatever the original version of light was, I don't know. Just like the cat hissing, our nervous systems couldn't absorb the impact. We emit a distinguishing mark, this felt difference between the changing reality, and it must match the motion of what that thing is. All our words actually sound like what that thing is. Not a metaphor. Words happen after. Metaphor happens after. Everyone's backwards. It has to sound like what that thing is so we can recognize it on the next impact. Otherwise, the next time we get impacted, we wouldn't have a mark to be retrieved into and know what's happening. Think of the word exercise. Literally sounds like a little mini exercise. If I tell you you're falling out of a plane, falling through the sky, and you land on a trampoline and bounce up 7,000 feet, you're not interpreting this. It doesn't matter how ridiculous it is, what I just said. It's just like the alarm clock. As soon as those sounds hit your ears, you don't experience the raw sounds directly. The mirror flips, the recognition arrives all on its own prior to interpretation. You only know what I'm saying because the word arrives after to cover it up. That's the gap, that's the narrow door. Social contracting makes absolutely no sense. It's based on mind, interpretation, world, completely backwards. You can just look at the dictionary where we go to define words to get their meaning, right? but it's words defining words. You go look up the word light in the dictionary. It's going to be a couple hundred words there, maybe, that are defining this. But theoretically, you'd have to go look up the definitions of all those words to get this meaning. Infinite regress, self-referencing self. Shared meaning only can be explained by this. Same nervous system, getting impacted with the same reality, co-witnessing contagion. All of our words arrive out of necessitation because reality demanded itself to be recognized so that we could have life, even when you're sleeping. Just to play this out a little more, what happens first, the cry or the pain? Of course, the pain happens first, not the cry. What happens first? Is it you hearing this cry and taking off into action, or the raw sound of it, like the alarm clock? It's the raw sounds. And of course, you know, the sound of your baby crying is a distinguishing mark from the sound of your alarm clock. But it works just the same. The raw sound hits you first, your eardrums, your nervous system. It rattles it in a specific way. These are like different piano keys. Your body is what is recognizing it, knows what that thing is. It's a felt sensation. And then the word cry, or the emotion of what this is, mental phenomena, some form of awareness, all forms of recognition, not interpretation, that arrives after to cover up what reality is demanding itself to be recognized, which is a relational contact event. Outside in, inside out. It arises within you due to the outside contact. And later on, you might think, I heard my baby cry. I'm a good father. I have responsibility. I ran off to take care of it. But it's not what happened. It's not you that heard your baby cry. It's not you that went into action. The other way. The raw sound hits you. Contact relation, distinction at address. Time and change. Your baby was not crying. Now she is. Arriving in between. You're last. This is a parasite. Just narrating what's already been given to you. It's so obvious. I mean, whatever reason your baby's crying is the same preconceptual conditions. There's a distinction at address. They're being contacted by something the same way as a cat hissing. The nervous system can't contain the energy amidst the mark, which is a different quality from all the other marks in order for us to know what the hell's going on and have experience. But when you're ignorant to this being the way how it works, our idea of interpretation is recognition, which is given to us, not knowing it's given. Therefore, life goes on, must be forced to recognize itself as the one giving itself the recognition. I am I. That's why everything's insane. That's the human sickness. Nothing you say is new. Anyone who interprets what I'm saying and tries to deny it and respond, you know for a fact that these are words that have already been marked for you, interpretations that you did not develop. And therefore, every interpretation, Descartes, Kant, all of philosophy, all of religion, arrived through contact and relation. That's how they developed it. And the way you started adopting whatever interpretation you're in arrived in the exact same way, by contact and relation. You're ignorant to this, so you think you possess it, it's yours. That means you're trapped in your own reflection, looked in the mirror, really thought that was you, and then you just project that onto others because you can't even recognize what they're saying unless you're operating from this. So I'm not saying people are wrong or bad for this. I'm saying you're trapped. It makes it impossible to relate no matter how hard you try. Because the structure, the foundation of it, doesn't matter what you believe. You're literally saying relation, contact doesn't exist. That mind world separation. You need to build a bridge across. There's just a me in here. That's it. That's why this is a false binary. All of these are simply based on not understanding its contact and relation first. Deciding between good and bad is assuming the minds first, which is assuming there's a separation. You have to avoid this and get this. Same with this. All of these I call the metaphysical split. What I'm proposing here is a complete inversion of all of that. It's a tautology. That's the end game. This is the shift in consciousness. It's an existential orientation move to get out of the false binary that's trapping you, putting you in endless despair that you're numbing yourself to. Meaning the true decision is true or false, life or death, love or fear. No matter what, there's a relational choice before the propositional one. And that's the narrow door. Know what I mean? As soon as this claim's presented, which isn't even a claim, there's now a binary. Just like when I yell stop, you're forced to relate to that. The alarm clock goes off, you're forced to relate to that. Your baby cries, you're forced to relate to that. You're now forced to relate to this, meaning this is the ground. Snap. You're listening to this right now. You want to deny the preconceptual conditions. Go for it. You have to address me. You have to contact me relationally. You'll be doing it within time, trying to change my opinion. You want to say there's no such thing as meaning. You're saying that statement as if it has meaning. There's no change. You're trying to change my opinion. You say there's no time. You're doing it within the literal passing of time after I said it. Say there's no address while you're addressing me. Say there's no contact relation as you're contacting me relationally first. Every single denial collapses into proving what it is, showing that it's non-assumptive and doesn't require proof, doesn't require interpretation. You recognize this. You relate others to perfectly. I mean, you relate to others just perfectly. How could you not? That's your only choice. If you don't recognize this, your only other option is this. This still happens first. 100%. You hear about it, you're in here. All of these are faith itself, no matter what. There is no difference between an atheist and a Protestant Reformationist. There's just not. I'll show you. Let's see. Joe Schmo. I'm struggling here. Joe Schmo is an atheist. Joe is mind. He believes in a separation to the world. God does not exist. This is interpretation. That's the bridge to his worldview. This is usually based on no proof of God. Maybe science, evolution. But of course, you cannot erase that you're assuming this separation. You cannot erase that you didn't come up with this. That was given to you. First time you heard about it, this happened. Faith itself grounds all of this. Billy Bob is a Protestant. Billy Bob, his mind arrives first, believes in the separation. based on Billy doctrine interpretation. God is ultimate. Worldview. The exact same thing. Same structure. Starts with his mind, complete assumption. Just different language, both being given. He's saying God doesn't exist based on all of these things. He's saying God does exist based on his doctrine. There is no God. That's his worldview. God is ultimate. That's his worldview. Both grounded in faith itself. You have to assume this to even begin it. But the doctrine was given to you. This interpretation was given to you. Through this, you don't recognize this. This recognition has nowhere to go, collapses into self-reference. Everyone gets their own flashlight and tries to build these bridges to heal this separation. It's just complete confusion. What I'm showing is the actual ontological order doesn't change. What I'm showing is that you're assuming this at the start and then just assert it. You're assuming God is separate from you at the start. You need to define him correctly per doctrine. You just assert it. It could either be true or false. That's the ground. That this is even true. Can never erase it. I used Descartes last time to show you God does not deceive. Look what he does here. Same way, Joe Schmo assumes atheism and then just asserts it. This guy assumes God is ultimate, and there's a doctrine to get there before he begins, and then asserts it. Descartes assumes his mind is separate from the world. I assumed, could be true, could be false, and says because I'm assuming that, it's true. Asserts it. But no matter what, contact and relation is happening. No matter what. But he smuggles it in at the end, even though it's first, by saying God just does not deceive, doesn't trace it to the metaphysical root, just leaves it hanging, so he can have this. The atheist, contact and relations right here, smuggled in, even though it's first. Evolution is describing contact and relation. It's not the cause of it, it's the process of how it works. And this guy, right off the rip, is assuming his doctrine is the only way to heal this. So he starts there, asserts it, builds across. All the same. Faith itself battling faith itself, dressed up in different language. All of them parasites on this, canceling this out, putting you in a fracture. Can't relate to others when you do that. I'll show you. All right, so right off the rip, you just assert over everything I said and says it needs to be understood. That's immediately taking all this, pretending it's not a binary, throwing it in here. This goes into the separation of contact versus your mind. Your mind's first. These are just your mind, neutral third person describing what contact's like, all your understanding of it. Let's see what else we got. Third person, just describing it. I'm going to go into a whole thing on this. Once again, showing that you're putting the mind first, acting like you're separate from your own mind and making this observation. Putting it into other interpretive frameworks. The first step in some Dharma teachings. You're trying to make it sound like I'm talking about Buddhism, non-dual insight. And you're correct. They're saying that contact is first by putting the mind prior, though. I'm not doing that. You basically just assert that this isn't new. It's been around for thousands of years. Projecting your own image. And you threw this in. Almost every waking moment? What do you mean? What moment isn't? Yes. I mean, you almost conceded the entire thing here. I think you came back later and started recognizing this. Just take out this. Just say that, and all this goes away. Bet. Elior. Your metaphysics, as if I'm doing this. Michael interpreting the world with his metaphysics. I'm trying to assume and assert. I'm making the assumption and interpretation. I'm projecting the way I describe reality onto you, right? Nope, I'm doing this. Only you're doing all those things. If this inversion, which I laid out to fix this for you, not may be true, is true at the absolute level, that means it's the ground of function versus non-function. It's how that even comes about. Exposing it as a false binary. You're just asserting something I never said, that I'm taking us back to the Stone Age. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with any of this. I'm not sure what point you're making. Oh, I do, because you're asserting and assuming I'm making a non-dual insight, which I'm not. So you're arguing against a straw man. Non-dual insight does not remove the need for structure, agency, boundaries, or action. As if I removed structure, removed agency, removed boundaries. Then I drew the structure, showed you your agency is between these. And that any agency you think you have within this is bullshit. And the real boundary, you're always contained by this in every experience. Ultimate reality doesn't replace conventional reality. That's split. I never said that. I'm saying that the distinction between these two is presupposed by the conditions I laid out. Even if everything is relation, not if everything is relation, just say that. Yes, you still have to navigate the world as a limited self. That's my whole point, is you only hear about it in here, and you're trapped. So within this limited self, you can choose this, and then not become limited and become your fully functioning self, because you're not fracturing anymore. This literally proves my entire point. Given my premise, you're asserting that I'm making propositions with a premise, and the absolute view there is nothing to do. What? Even if I was making a premise, how do you get that? See what I mean by assuming and asserting? You're not actually giving any reasons. You're just saying this is true. If resting in that perspective is complete, why are you writing this? What are you trying to achieve in the limited world? It's just a category error. If it's contact first, then I'm not writing this. The expression expressing itself through me. The whole idea of achieving something is when you're trapped in this. This is not non-dual. This has never been said before, bro. All right, this homie. We got to look up this shit. Oops. And I try to throw you a carrot because I see that you get in arguments with Christians all the time. I literally told you, bro, that I'm doing this. All of Christian denominations bring back in the Ten Commandments, moralism, stacking on top of the incarnation claim. The incarnation claim is this. It still exists. All denominations, every single one of them, do this and cancel out the entire claim. But the claim still exists. So I did prove Jesus. It just is opposing all Christian traditions. I agree. So you got to tell me why you don't see I get Jesus from this. I mean, who's the outside contact point? Who says he provides the meaning? You're being addressed by reality, the Father. As soon as you hear the claim of Christ, it's a second person addressing you, not an interpretive framework based on the structural claim itself. It's in relation to you as soon as you hear about it. Do you accept the invite or not? That's not interpretive, not assumptive. He says, I am with you. I am your God. I'm arriving at you. In fact, I'm already with you, on my way. Do you accept the relationship or not? Relational choice. The only claim in existence that is a relational choice, because the incarnation claim takes out the structural gap. Everything else has this gap right here. But he's the outside contact point. The Father's addressing you. The Word made flesh, all the forms of recognition arriving within you. The mirror flips. He does the will of the Father perfectly. So it's a double meaning. The Word being made flesh, the recognition is the Holy Spirit recognizing it through you. I'm not taking these things from the doctrine. I'm saying this is the relational architecture for how life unfolds. So, of course, that impersonal God had to become a person because we're trapped in this. He steps in between it and points towards this. And now there's an actual choice. 2,000 years empirically proven that people have chosen a relational choice as opposed to a propositional choice. The entire free will debate is propositional choices, all the same structure. Do we have it or do we not? You could be debating yourself within this. Jesus shows up, draws a circle around the whole thing, and says, I'm this. As soon as you hear about it, you're in relation to it. Just like me saying stop, you're forced to recognize it. Do you choose it or do you not? That's its priority to interpretation. If you don't choose it, you're choosing this. If you do choose it, you're choosing this. That means free will exists prior to any free will debate. Only offered by the relational choice, meaning it's 100% certain there's free will only by the offering of this, which is only offered by incarnation, making Jesus Christ a complete tautology, whether anyone likes it or not. Sorry. This is where you split, though. You just assert that I'm using the mind to establish the width. You don't say why. You just throw it in an interpretive category, just equating it to science. You're saying I propose objective is not material. I never said that. I'm saying the meaning arrives in between the objective material world and your subjective interior immaterial mind. Yes, when you're asserting this, the subjective mind certainly disrupts both views. But you're not getting my view correct. Before we log off, let's just throw these in. See what Mr. AI has to say. Let's see. This is the entire point. Describing third person. I'm describing the ontological floor. Precognitive, pre-interpretive. See how you switch it? Inversion. Oh, he's going line by line. Oh shit. Yup. What we got? See how obvious this is? Separating processing and contact. This is what everybody's doing. Dun dun dun. None of these are ontological. You literally respond to me saying that the mind doesn't exist before the world by just assuming it does. That's your whole message, man. Proving that you broke relation. That's what this is about. You start figuring it out though, bro. That's why I think you're gonna see this. You're just forcing it into this. A model. You don't understand the floor yet because you can't understand it. You just gotta fall through it. Right here is where you really just reveal it, saying that the mind produces the contact. And I'm saying the complete opposite. Again, people try to make it sound like I'm doing something mystical. They're all doing epistemology because of this. Oh man, he's getting you perfectly wrong in the best way. Um, Look at this, man. Crazy. I guess I could have just said this instead of this whole whiteboard, but all right, your turn, Elier. Get on. Or even one sentence. Yep, 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 exactly, exactly. A split. Hey, dude, you're freaking out. You fear this because you know it's true. That's just death twitches of epistemology. How are people not getting this? Exactly. Exactly. While imagining it, it refutes it. Oh, he's getting you, man. I'm sorry. Assuming the split. Assuming the split. Assuming the split. That's the whole point I'm pointing out, man. This is not good for people, for the world, obviously. That's why the world's a mess. Yup. Yup. God damn, he's killing it. Oh my god, he's murdering you, dude. Jesus. White stone. All right, last one. Oh, he's gonna mess you up, bro. Get him. Oh, he's thinking. Because you're tricky. You're a smart guy. You're clever. He's actually gonna respect your position. See? See? These are assertions. I've never heard of this guy. Damn. Exactly. Because this is what all denominations do. This is what I was saying in the whiteboard. The structure of incarnation doesn't take that away. It doesn't start there. See? 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 Structural. Prior to belief. These words exist. This claim exists. You're a big Greek guy. That's why you're so confused. Scripture itself undercuts it, not a denomination. Exactly. I notice it. Oh, goddamn. Come on, bro. Come on. Performative audit, baby. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. World of objects, observer observed, neutral relation. Like there's some separation here. Third person descriptions. I'm not saying science is bad, but it takes that view from nowhere, that vantage point that doesn't even exist. Oh, that's what everyone's messing up. They think the shared field is alongside other things, but I'm performing it in every exchange. Exactly. 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 All those conditions are why you think what you think. Get out of this. Get out. Sin is a relational fracture. Born sinner is an ontological condition. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's just the structure of the claim, whether you believe in it or not. Not talking about the truth value of it. Classification of claims. As soon as you treat it that way, it becomes a tautology. Claim equals proof. Oh, what a word. What a phrase. See, that's what I was saying. My boy, an actual boy. Dun dun dun. What you think, man? Let me know, fellas. I'd be happy to do this all day.